My name is Alvaro Soto. I was born in Chile, but I've been working from Mexico City for 20 years. I wore a red hat, so I want to talk a little bit about cultural challenges for open source to start working in these communities in Latin America, and not only for Ceph. This it will be the same presentation for every open source project that wants to enter into that region, regardless if it's free or support based, whatever. Like I said, that I was born in Chile, but I've been working for 20 years and living in 20 years for right now in Mexico City. So I had a pretty broad knowledge about the community. I've been involved with the open source community with several projects, and I consider that I don't have the both nationalities, but I consider myself that in my heart, I have both. I work specifically on OpenShift for telco, doing some kind of enhanced support. 99% of my customers are telco running workloads on top of OpenShift. So I provide support for them, mainly with solutions like 5G, major telcos like Verizon, Vodafone, and others from Asia. And in that side, sadly, we don't have too many customers from Latin America. We have one, and it's the only one that is not a telco. So a little bit about myself and my experience working in Latin America. I've been working with Ceph since 2015 using Firefly. I wasn't the one that installed that version, so I ended up working with a running cluster and then moving to upgrades and stuff like that. Stacker since 2013 using Habana. We managed to get the first public offer in Latin America based on OpenStack and Ceph. This was for a major data center company in Mexico. And it was pretty amazing. A bunch of people didn't believe that is going to happen to for a company based in Latin America. We ended up working with Intel, doing research. We managed to publish a few papers because we were working from the data center until the final solution. On private sector, I've been working for financial, government, healthcare, e-commerce, telecom, a bunch of others, doing a specific architecture and deployments, upgrades, all based on, at first it was all based with open source without any kind of support, OpenStack and stuff. Directly, I have the experience to work with companies in Mexico, Colombia, Bolivia, Argentina, and Chile. Directly, indirectly, it will be a lot of other countries like Peru and other countries where this kind of solutions that were developed in these countries, these people have the customer base. So I don't consider myself that I have a deep knowledge about how to enter and try to work with the Latin American market, but I have seen issues happen again and again, and sometimes it's the same issue that could be seen from different perspectives to try to solve and to try to enter and start working in this region easier. So that is one thing that I want to talk about a little bit. About my community-focused work, um, when, when we started doing like OpenStack days in LATAM, I was behind that people as a technical committee. So like choosing the speakers and seeing what kind of technologies people we can like get information and be more like important for the region to hear about. Right now, I'm actively working in the Open Infra meetup group in Mexico City, in Guadalajara. It's pretty much the same. The Ceph one, and I also been doing some kind of blue team like InfoSec things, working with Gentoo and Linux B server, jar security and packs. So I try to get my life really complicated working with, with Gentoo is not an easy thing. So I enjoy that much doing these kind of things. So my first disclaimer is this is not like my employee view. This is my personal one, the thing that I want to bring to the community and to talk about and to try to like show you guys things that maybe will help you to start working with the community, selling products, doing support, because I've been traveling like in Latin America, and they want to use these kind of technologies, but like I said, the pattern is pretty much always the same, and the same issues that like the people that want to work with in the region like are after. And it doesn't seem like they don't want to fix it. It's just that they don't take enough time to be able to analyze the issue first or try to communicate with the local communities to be able to understand better how to approach the region. The second one is this is not the opinion of any of the communities that I work with, so this is 100% my personal view. And most important, this is a really delicate issue because of the outcomes that I'm going to show you. So I don't try to like point fingers on any other region that this is why this is going to happen. I do believe that as a community we need to focus on trying to fix it instead of trying to blame any other like big companies or like I said, regions or even technologies. So, okay, starting with information, like using the information that is on from the Ceph user survey, we have like really low numbers. On 2018, we were like something in the middle, like 6% of users of the entire community were based in LATAM. So that is a really low number. And in 2022, it gets worse. Like we have like 1.5, 2% of the users. Like we know that with the time we have drop in responses on the user survey, but even without, the numbers are really bad for the region. And we cannot blame that, oh, maybe like engineers are too busy working with Ceph that they don't have time to answer the survey. Like, I know that the community is like trying to understand how to approach like the user, how to make like easier questions even. So it's clearly something happening that this community, this kind of technology is not like penetrating the region. And it's important to realize what is the issue, because we are an open source community, and Ceph is based on like community focus. So we need to take a closer look and understand what is the issue there. So for one moment, just let's just have this kind of scenario that we have two options when companies are looking for storage solutions. No, there is not like using just plain RAID with NFS. I'm really tired of some customers like using this kind of solution for like heavy workloads. Like I don't know what they expect to happen, like using NFS still. Like I don't know, it's just drive me mad to get this kind of what? Yeah, yeah, that could be one. Huh? But just try to imagine this scenario. I know that you guys we can go on and on saying that, hey, this is not the only two solutions, we have plenty, but just try to focus on from a different region that is not in the US, it's not in Europe, it's in Latin America, and when they try to, like, when they have this need to implement a new storage technology, the first thing that came to mind is, okay, I do have an open source like solution, and I have a proprietary software. Like, it doesn't matter if it's like software-based, hardware-based, whatever. Let's try to imagine that we have these only two options, okay? Then, what normally happens in Latin America is like, strangely, like companies prefer to pay and to spend a large amount of money in, like, I don't know if they are like sort the options or sort all the like the orders, and they choose the biggest. They want to, I don't know, in some way they feel comfortable doing so, because they said, okay, if I like invest a large amount of money in this solution, I'm going to be able to sleep well all night. And eventually that is what is happening here. Like in companies in there, we can see always the same kind of solutions. I don't want to like put labels like this one and this other, but let's say like some these like solutions came again and again as the ones that are going to be implemented. Mainly because, like I said, like companies in Latin America, they don't want to have the fall when something is happening, when they have an outage. They want to start, when they start like pointing fingers, any of the like VP, C-level managers, whatever, they don't want to be in the other end of the finger. So they just want to say, hey, yeah, I have an outage. I am the owner of this like platform, infrastructure, whatever. But yeah, I'm going to create a like support request because we have another company in the other end that can fix the issue. That is why they spend so much money doing so. And they feel comfortable doing so. And when the users, the end user of this platform came back and said, hey, what happened? Why my entire service is down? Oh, don't worry. We have a support case with this company. They're trying to figure it out. So that is a like mental process that for them is like, okay, a relief. A company bigger than mine is working on fixing this. We know that not always is they are going to fix it, but another like important point is they want to have like local support. They want to be able to say, hey, you are in the region and you know and you feel my struggle. And sometimes that is hard to happen. But even so, when like the companies that provide this kind of solution are not in the region, they don't take enough time to be able to know the region and to know the market, to really fulfill their needs. They just want to put a technology out there and wait for the go live to start doing things. So what they ended up doing is always going for the black box solution. Like, I don't know what is happening inside, but I feel comfortable doing so, because if I don't know what is happening inside, obviously I don't know how to fix it, and you are the only one, and I'm paying you to fix the issue. So please go ahead and fix it, right? It sounds easy, but not always. And it's like really easier if you are working in this perspective, really easy to find manpower. It's like, even if you like say something like, okay, we have a room full of like storage people, let me throw a rock, and for sure the people that I'm going to hit doesn't know a thing about Ceph. They could know about other solutions, but not about Ceph, because it's really hard to find manpower. And this is global. This is not only in Latin America, this is global. So how we can fix this, or how we can approach these kind of issues with the like IT companies. A lot of it can be fixed, and this is something that we have seen in the past just by trying to approach the customer and try to say, hey, I'm not trying to sell you this technology. Please tell me, what do you need? Why do you are looking this kind of technology? Why you are looking for Ceph? Why you are looking for this open source based technology? This is not like any other big brand black box in the corner. These open source projects tend to work differently. And we can say that if we have like a black box in the corner, for sure it's going to be running Linux. It's going to be running a bunch of open source projects, but because we don't have access to that, we pay support to have access and to fix the issues. It will be easier. We know the things that are involved. Anyone here can say, okay, yeah, that is like obvious, right? Like, open source is going to help you on doing a cultural transition. It's been proved that open source will help you on midterm to speed up projects, to have newer features in a faster way than if you are using other kind of solutions. So it was weird when Ceph came to the region, because they were like in some way mad. It's like, yeah, this is the new thing. This is the, like, if you want a Ceph and start a solution, you should start looking at Ceph. And people start wondering, why? Why is that? Why is that? And fun fact, it was like, yeah, you should know that CERN uses Ceph, and that didn't help at all. That is like, right, okay. So you are saying me that right now I need a bunch of PhD to be able to run Ceph. Like, that is not helping you at all. Like, that is just making it worse. Just because you are saying that, it's not going to fix this. I'm not going to use your platform, whatever. And if we try to, like, a few years ago, it was like, right now we have this philosophy in, like, more words, beautiful paragraph in the web page, whatever. But mainly, this is the philosophy of, like, Ceph. Let's go first for no single point of failure. It's like, okay, we all know that. It's pretty self-explanatory, so, okay, no problem there. What about community focus? Yeah, there is also, like, self-explanatory. We don't need, like, complicated description of that. What about open source? And it's like, okay, maybe I haven't with open source at all, being a brand new company that has been like working with a bunch of like really expensive solutions. Like, okay, tell me a little bit more. And this is my personal feeling that when people trying to explain what is open source, the payload doesn't translate, like, it's not like being able to explain a philosophy. That is really hard. So I don't know if you guys remember, but when we started working open source, it was like, okay, explain that in a better way. It's like, yeah, it's like a free beer. It's like, okay, not exactly the same, but people start accepting that in Latin America. And if I want to translate open source, the main philosophy of open source doesn't get translated. So you are never going to be able to pass that message to the end customer. Like you can, it's really hard to explain that, to translate a desire to create like good software rather than simply try to make profit of it. So that is really complicated. Then, when you explain this, you have to explain to the companies, to engineers. And it's like, okay, maybe the company can understand that, but what about the engineers that have been working in the past really with, I don't know, Unix-based, with companies that always prefer pay for support, and right now you want to focus on like open source, completely free like free solutions. And in here is like the first cause of the issue, like because people trying quickly to find the comfort zone, they don't want to start learning new technologies just because one of the companies in the region is going to start using this new technology. It's like, okay, this is not like broadly accepted, so why do I have to start like changing the books that I have been reading in the past, the certification that I've been working in the past? So it's really easier to get like a bunch of, I don't know, AWS, Google, NetApp, ENC, whatever, certification than Ceph-related or open source related certification. And if you add that to the language barrier, it gets worse because all that information is in English. And that is not the main language in Latin America. It will be Spanish. But every time that a new certification came out, it's like, okay, yeah, we don't have that version in Spanish. So when people start looking around, it's like, okay, if I want to take like AWS certification, that is in Spanish in a bunch of other languages. So it will be easier to get that. Because in the other way, I have to like start reading in an English, in a language that is not like my first one, so I'm gonna be struggling in the middle. And maybe this is like worldwide, but it is also like more able to happen in Latin America. Yeah, exactly what I said. Is like language barrier is something that is happening in there, and it needs to be taken into account when you want to like approach a new market. It will be easier for companies in the US to travel to any other country in Latin America and start talking in English, start offering certification and books and information in English, but because, again, people quickly find the comfort zone, maybe they are not that savvy into another language. If they maybe manage to talk another language, it will be Portuguese because of Brazil. So you will also have to deal with that. So it gets like harder and harder. And if we understand that like first issue, then we can move to the next one. It's like, okay, we're going to use Ceph. We are going to use this open source solution. What are the options regarding to support? Like, there are companies providing like 100% support of clusters. If the customer wants to have the servers into their data center, that's fine. If they don't want to have it, that's fine also. You don't want to pay for the hardware, that's fine. If you don't want to pay for the hardware, that's fine. We will provide you with the hardware, with lease, whatever. So you have two options, again, to trying to spend your money, your budget into this project. And it will be pay for support. Like I said, we have a bunch of companies doing so. And then the other option is like, okay, we can try to create or use an internal team to get the support. Like, we are going to choose this Linux team to start learning Ceph to be able to provide support for our company. Okay, we have two options. Even if you have the first one paying for support, like fully supported solution that is maybe not even running in Latin America, we need to have people with a little bit of knowledge to understand Ceph, to be able to ask for things, to be able to, like, I remember the first meetup that I had in Mexico City, and it was like, okay, I have to, like, give my speech and try to collocate my meetup, Ceph meetup, with other one, with another related to, like, DevOps, Linux, whatever, because the community was so small. And a lot of, like, storage, like, suit and tie kind of guy working with big boxes of, like, a storage solution, EMC, NetApp, whatever, you name it. And I put a big slide, as if RAID is dead. And they were mad. They were really, really mad. It's like, why are you saying that? That doesn't make any sense at all. And it's like, yeah, if you want to start doing things and move along with the new technologies, you need to start facing these kind of changes in the technology. So, in here, we can see that we have a second real cause. Like, people in Latin America, they lack of ownership, taking the risk on developing internal teams that know the technology, like in-house talent. And this is the second most important reason why this is happening in the region. And I try to, like, the next slide that I'm going to show you is like, I put this slide together, like, I don't know, 3 a.m. in the morning yesterday, like, because I wanted to have, like, and I really started digging into, like, a bunch of websites to find the proper numbers to show you this. And I didn't want to show, like, really hard, like, difference between salaries. But that is the, let's say, in some way, the easier, like, role that you can start digging into if you want to start working with technologies. And this is a reality. Like, in the US, that is average for entry-level people. US, UK, and Latin America. Of course, you can have, like, specific cases, like moving around those numbers, but this is what is normally happening in the region, like the money that they are making. In some ways, not enough for a new technology to be able to, for a company to take the ownership and start building a new team, because it's going to be easier for a company in the US to start looking into these guys and say, hey, you are making like half of the money that I will pay you here in the US. Like, I'm gonna give you like 35,000. I'm gonna bring you to the US, and sad to say, but the company that pays you at first for all that knowledge right now doesn't have an storage engineer, or in this case, an entry-level Linux engineer, because that is something that starts happening in the region. That it becomes really easier to companies in US and UK to offer you more money for you to leave your country and start working from the US or UK. If you want to stay because of family, whatever, that is the most that I can do for you. Like, you can continue in the region, but it's not going to move that much. We can say that this is maybe, at first I mentioned that I don't want to point fingers. I know that maybe a lot of things that I have said today is like, okay, but all those issues can be fixed from companies in Latin America. Yeah, but like I said, open source is based on community. Why do we want to only put the stress on for people to trying to fix these kind of issues into that region that doesn't know what to do with that open source solution? Because it's well known that, actually we say something really, really funny in Latin America, that we start seeing technologies trending in Latin America when companies in the US start to like discontinuing using those technologies. Like, they don't want it anymore. And that is why we are seeing these technologies in Latin America. They test it out, and now we can say, okay, yeah, maybe let's try to give a chance. Maybe let's try to put this together with a technology that in the market like is from 10 years ago or so. So, this is really important to understand that by doing this kind of, they call like brain drain. In Latin America, there is a term for that, and it's called brain drain. You are draining the countries from brains from talented people, talented engineers. And we all want money. I mean, we all want to make money from these solutions, sell it, be able to be successful as a startup using open source solutions, whatever. But we need to understand that right now it is like a major issue, because globally we are lacking of engineers that are able to work with open source technologies like as complicated as Ceph. So maybe we can find a bunch of Linux engineers entry level, yeah. It's been on the market for a bunch of time, so that is not going to be hard. But to be able to work with technologies like Ceph or more complicated, like let's just say Ceph, OpenStack, or any other like in that kind of level, this is what is happening globally, because other countries are draining Latin American countries from engineers to be able to perform this work. And after doing so, there is no longer an engineer working from Latin America. There is an engineer working from the US, UK, Europe, Asia, whatever. And we can understand that, we need to understand that it's going to be impossible to continue working doing so if we like drain out completely a region from engineers, it's like, what is going to be next? We don't have more people that are going to be able to handle these kind of technologies. Why? Because you're offering more money to work from a different region. Fun fact, we all know that manpower in Mexico or Latin America is cheaper than manpower in the US. We all know that. We, or I, as an engineer working from Mexico, I know that. I know that if I move completely to the US, I'm gonna be paying more money by doing the same amount of work. And there is another topic that we can maybe start digging into, but it's a little bit complicated. So I didn't put it in the slide, but if anyone is interested on that, we can talk about later about any other. When I explain to you, try to believe that we only have these two solutions. Try to, we know that we have more solutions. We have more issues. In here, I just put it two, but we have many more, and we can continue talking on and on this one. And since 4 years ago, I've been trying to do more this kind of talk than technical ones. We have amazing engineers doing technical work with Ceph, but that is one end. Doing cutting edge solutions with Ceph is really important, but we also need to understand who is going to be the one that is going to support that solution. We need to have the other end, because the people working in research and development are going to say, okay, now we have a new solution. I need to pass this to support and continue working in the next solution. They are not going to accept to say, okay, I have a new solution, now I need to support it, and my research and development career just stopping here because I created one valid solution for the region, and that's it. So this is not going to end well if we continue doing so. I was going to mention that fun fact. We know that people can say, yeah, people in Latin America make less money because it's cheaper to, cost of life is cheaper in Latin America. Okay. But when COVID, exploded, I had a bunch of friends working in the US that say, hey, and right now you are not in your home, right? It's not, no, I want to spend 6 months working from Cancun. It's okay, you are receiving a paycheck in dollars, US dollars, and you are spending Mexican pesos. What is your manager saying about that? A bunch of managers start doing that kind of, okay, you right now need to return to work, return to the offices. But a bunch of other managers is yeah, I don't care. You can work from anywhere. You need to respect from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., and that's it. But yeah, it was really interesting to see that, people moving to Latin America to continue doing their same work that they were performing from the US, making a bunch of money, 2-3 times or even more of the number that I put it in the slide, and they're living a good life from Costa Rica, Cancun, or any other place Colombia, whatever, you name it. And in that way, it was some kind of payback. It's oh, you like to steal engineer from this zone, and now you are going to, because you cannot decrease the salary from these engineers because they are not living in the US or in the another region. So that is, like I said, a fun fact. But Yeah, we need to understand that we cannot continue doing so. We cannot expect a good outcome if we continue doing so. We lack of the, I don't know if we have like lost in the path of creating beautiful technology. We have lost that sentiment of community. Like, it doesn't matter where do you work, where do you live. It would be nice to say, hey, this technology is being used in this small place over there, not only in Latin America, but that is the region where I belong. And this will be like uh, my last slide. I took it from the real URL is in there. UNAM is one of the major public universities in Mexico. And they put together this kind of like little research to say something about brain drain. And they clustered out this post and this research with that quote. That is why I believe it was a good idea to understand this key pain point that we are facing, and we are going to continue facing, like companies in the US, in Europe, in many other places say, hey, it is really hard to find a Ceph engineer. Yeah, if you don't work on build these kind of engineers, it's going to be harder and harder with the pass of the time. So we need to start dealing with it. And in Mexico, we have 3 important public universities, like completely free. Actually, that is why I moved from Chile to Mexico, because I want to continue my engineering degree, but because I ran into some issues with the university in Chile, I couldn't continue anymore, and then I came to Mexico to continue my engineering degree. I ended up doing a master's degree, and a bunch of companies, like really big companies, approach to these universities to say, hey, I'm gonna give you free use of our cloud solution. I'm gonna give you free certifications. I'm gonna start teaching you and put engineering and PhD for my company to give you 1 class, 2 classes in your entire 4 years or 5 years of degree. And that is a really nice thing to watch, but the only thing that you can expect that to, like, in the end, is that the student for these universities are going to start working in these major companies. And that is why we start seeing in Mexico that Oracle approach universities, public universities, because they want to start working with professors to be able to teach the things that they need in order to, when they get the degree, they move to work at Oracle, and Oracle has a big like software factory in Guadalajara. And Intel has another one. A bunch of people have saying that in Guadalajara is some kind of Silicon Valley of Mexico. Like the first time that I started working with Ceph, I ended up working with a bunch of people from Intel in Guadalajara. A bunch of people that started the Kata container project were working from Guadalajara because they were working for Intel. So that is the only thing that is going to happen if we continue to do so. But it will be nice to see this kind of like movement with open source technologies. From my end, that will be it. I don't know if any of you have any following questions, or even if you want to like continue talking about this topic more deeply on how to get involved with the community. Go ahead.
You were talking about open source adoption for some of the big, well, products like Ceph. You were talking about the Latin American open source adoption for things like Ceph. How does that compare against Kubernetes? What's the Kubernetes scene like in Latin America?
That is actually a really nice question.
Thank you. Hey, that was a very nice presentation. Thank you very much. Thanks for kicking off Ceph Day.
Thank you. Thank you. That is a really nice question because it was fun. Yesterday when I went to bed, like from Mexico, the time zone in California is like, I believe we have 3 or 4 hours different. No, I believe 5 to 6 hour difference with Mexico, with Chile. So I ended up my presentation, and I was like, I need to talk to a friend. I need to ask a question because I want to know the answer from a person that is working in Chile. And I said, okay, I know that you are working with Kubernetes. Can you please lay down what do you do? Like, what is your day-to-day work? And they are like, yeah, I use Kubernetes, but I use Azure, I use AWS, because for a lot of companies in Latin America, it's like the plague. I'm not going to try to implement it by myself. I'm not going to do so. Why? Because if I want to do so, I'm going to need to build local talent. And we start off at the same issue that I was explaining, like, yeah, you build local talent, and what will be the outcome of that? Because everyone that works, like everyone in here that works with open source technology will be like, okay, right now I'm going to be the one that, like the name that is going to be like mentioned in the region, like hey, I'm the one working with Kubernetes. And companies from other places are going to say, hey, you are working with Kubernetes. Yeah, did you implement it? Yeah, nice. So come here and work from the US and get a big paycheck.
So I have a follow-up. So basically what you're saying is you chatted with a colleague in Latin America, and their use with another popular open source product is to use the cloud provider's implementation of that. Is that a path forward with Ceph? I know at least one of the major cloud providers has storage implementations of their own.
Yeah.
And I guess that's sort of a safety net for people that want a fully owned solution.
Yeah.
Still in an open source space.
They do. Actually, in the company that I was working in the data center, is the biggest data center, tier 4 or 5, I don't recall, data center in Latin America. It's the biggest one. They always win the big contracts with government because they have the biggest certification on security. Like in Mexico, you cannot have the next one because there is only one power provided in the entire country. So the only way to have high availability with that, it will be okay, you have diesel plants to be able to maintain the servers up and running. But yeah, Canonical they starting doing so a large amount of work trying to penetrate this region, trying to work with companies. We ended up working with Canonical in that big data center because we were using at that time Ubuntu. It was like, hey, I want to start focusing in other things. I was the one working with Ceph, and I was like, hey, I need to start focusing on how to do an upgrade from this fucking crazy solution because I'm stuck on the day-to-day support kind of things. So they start working in the region, but I don't know if they didn't analyze the market because it was like for us really fun to say, they were like, is this being recorded? Damn, okay. Okay, but, okay, fun fact. That we wanted to understand how the Charm kind of like deployment works. And we were like, okay, here you have the hardware. Trying to like install a platform. You say that you can install an OpenStack with Ceph Charm solution in a couple of hours. Here you have fun. They spend like a month doing like planning that, and then they spend like a week trying to implement it. And in that data center, we have some kind of chaos monkey like kind of testing. So we were like, okay, this is, we have like completely, even with the tier 4, like data center, we have completely like management of the cables and fibers and servers, whatever. So we went to the data center and we start like pushing the button and okay, not down. What is happening now? Is like high availability working? And they were like, okay, we weren't expecting for you to do so. And it's like, why do you want, like, do you want to explain me what kind of failure you are able to like manage? Because we want to have like a high availability solution. And I believe that they were the first ones try to do that, to penetrate the region, but I don't know if they get tired of our kind of way to test things. Because if I'm going to pay $1 million contract to Canonical, I would expect for them to have full support. So me as a manager, I don't want for anyone to call me at 3 a.m. with an issue. I want to sleep better, and that is why I'm spending the money paying you guys to build this solution, really high availability, high-end solution. So that went bad. That kind of testing went bad, and we haven't seen more on that kind of like a path lately. We don't have like Red Hat is based also on Brazil, Argentina, Chile, a bunch of Latin American countries. But it is also well known that they only have people to work as a solution architect. They don't have the technical manpower to do so. If they want to hire manpower, technical manpower to be able to implement and architect a solution, they will like companies will have to pay for an engineer based in the US to plan that solution, and maybe to hire another small company in Latin America to be able to implement that, because the cost will be too high if the same company that creates the architecture like implements it. So yeah, right now I believe there is a bunch of like startups in Latin America, because startups realize that okay, maybe if a company wants to implement this like Red Hat solution, Canonical, whatever, they have to move engineers from UK, US, and that is expensive. We can create a startup of 4 people to do exactly the same. It will be cheaper. The documentation is out there. We just need to understand how to do it, how to read it, and how to like implement it. And it will be cheaper to pay this startup instead of like having the main company to be able to implement it. But yeah, this is like a kind of topic that I can go on and on and that is why I mentioned, like, I can continue talking about this one, but I believe that I need to keep my mouth shut right now. And I don't know if you guys have any other question or follow-up questions. No? Okay. Thank you very much for your time, guys.